Welcome to Bluejay Banter. We're live here at Let It Fly, as we always are, with Tim Kruger and Ross Ferrarini. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. If you're on there, make sure you hit the subscribe button, which it helps us out so much, and hit the like to share with all Jays fans. Joining Ross. Ross, you did the game on radio Saturday.
Yeah, I did Wednesday too at Seton Hall. Good time with John, as always. He brings a lot of passion, as you well know. But he's so good at what he does. It was a lot of fun. 2 very good wins. Saturday was a lot of fun. Obviously, a little bit of a different deal without Kolek and Oso Ighodaro. I had heard before the game about Kolek. I had no idea about Ighodaro, though. It sounded like maybe he was sick and back in the hotel.
Yep.
So. But great win, nonetheless. It was a lot of fun doing radio.
Yeah, so we didn't do a post-game show on Saturday because of the mock selection committee being in here. So we're kind of going to do that right now as a mini post-game show, basically breaking down what happened. Yeah, so you didn't know until game time, basically, that he wasn't going to be in the lineup. Yeah,
I mean, probably 40 minutes before tip. He wasn't out there warming up, obviously, and there just kind of been whispers amongst everybody around, like, I don't know if Ighodaro might be sick or he's not coming or what the deal is. So that obviously changed things quite a bit. But I was actually pretty impressed with the way Marquette played.
I was too.
Despite not having both of them. I mean, Cam Jones is a really talented scorer. I mean, he can really put the ball in the hoop. And then, they got some really good production, I thought, from Stevie Mitchell and David Joplin, but had maybe the dunk of the year, quite honestly.
David Joplin, we couldn't stop him there for about a 5-minute stretch.
I mean, he's got kind of the prototypical Big East NBA-type wing body. And I thought the other kid I thought played actually pretty well for them was the freshman Zayd Lowry. Hit a couple of threes, hit a couple of big offensive rebounds.
What did he have, like... Somebody said he had like 8 points this year or something so far, or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or made four threes, maybe that's what it was. Yeah, and he made 2 threes.
Yeah, he made 2 threes. I think that might be right. He had 4 or 5 coming into the game and then made 2. So, but really, obviously, a great stretch at the very end of the game there with Baylor and Fran basically taking over. Trey played great. Trey had back-to-back games of 10 assists and 11 assists. I mean, what a playmaker he's turned into. So it just. Fantastic win. What a way to go out. Baylor is, I said this, how my thoughts. Baylor is as good of a player that we've had here over the past 25 years. I would put him maybe number 2 besides Doug McDermott, obviously. I mean, I think he's that good. I think he's been that complete of a player. And so that's kind of where I stand.
Yeah. I got the UConn Rivals guy reached out to me today and said, hey, there's not every school in the Big East has rivals, but the ones that do, we're going to do like a pick first team, second team, third. I go, oh, this is awesome. Yep. But I asked him specifically, I go, can the MVP league does it necessarily have to be from UConn, or can it be someone else? He hasn't answered me back yet, but because he's a UConn guy. But I mean, if it, traditionally, before the show, Phil and I were in here, and we were going over it, though. There was a few years, Doug was one that won.
Right.
But then he was National Player of the Year. How can you not have him? Right. And then Marcus Howard won one year. But I thought Marquette might have tied for the conference title that year, or been right there.
Second,
yeah. So, but other than that, it generally comes from the team that wins.
But this team who happens, so, if things kind of stay on the path that they're supposed to stay on here, at present, we would be the 3 seed or finish 3rd in the Big East, but
we have 3 locked up.
But that's not your traditional 3 seed. I mean, this is a 3 seed in the Big East that's trying to play their way onto the 2 seed line in the NCAA tournament at this point. So it's not exactly your normal 3 seed in the conference.
Right.
I would argue, again, we're obviously biased. I would argue Baylor should win Big East Player of the Year. The UConn contingent is going to shout from the rooftops that Tristan Newton should be Player of the Year. He has been very, very, very good for them, and obviously Tyler Kolek's been very, very good as well. But if I had to place a wager on it right now, I would bet that Tristan Newton's going to end up having his name called.
I would say what hurts Tristan Newton is that team is so good. All the guys on that starting 5 are really good players. They're all going to, like when I do that voting, I'm going to have them all 1, 2, 3, or and Castleby freshman of the year. I mean, they're all that good.
Right.
You know, that it's not just Tristan Newton, and that's why I think maybe you don't notice him night in and night out, because Spencer carries the load a lot, Caravan does, and then Klingon is just really good. So, but I down the stretch, when you have the number of doubles that Baylor is racked up, and then 26 and 16 on senior night.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I mean, without Baylor, we'd have been in a real dogfight there.
Yeah, you know, a huge game, and you know, I'm really happy for him. Is Francisco Farabello, obviously, you know, he has just maybe his best game in a Creighton uniform.
What a game
on senior night, and he's a kid that's obviously just a complete gamer. He's never once all we hear about is how he's just a consummate teammate, and he comes up big in big time moments. We've talked about a couple of times before. We would wish that he'd be a little bit more aggressive offensively.
And he was.
I thought he wasn't hesitant from the 3-point line, and pump faking unnecessarily and all those sorts of things. I thought he obviously gave a huge dimension. I'll be honest, I thought maybe about a month and a half ago, I looked at this team and I said, gosh, we are really top heavy, because I just don't know that we have enough there outside of kind of that top 3-4, and I have really changed my tune on that. I think that the emergence of the minutes that Jason Green has given off the bench has added another dimension. I think Isaac Trout has continued to stay ready and is able to come in maybe as kind of a stealth pick and pop guy. You saw it against Seton Hall, obviously, and knock down shots, despite maybe some defensive inefficiencies from him. I just
his is kind of a matchup thing.
Yeah, his is a little bit more of a matchup deal. I just get the feeling now. I've just seen more that I look at this team and I'm like, I think there's more there than just Baylor Trey Kalk. There's a lot more there, in my opinion. Yeah. So,
and we survived a game where Ash didn't play particularly well.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what's been happening lately. We won a game where Baylor didn't play particularly well. So I mean, it's I like the way we're trending here, and I love Mac's comment when Fran shot that 3 in the corner. He's just like, oh, God, it's senior day. Let this one go in.
Right. Especially, Fran's obviously shot the ball much, much better from 3 this year. I mean, this was a guy that a lot of people gave a hard time to last year, because, you saw the numbers from TCU, and everyone's like, I thought that was his deal. I thought he was supposed to be the 3-point shooter. And for whatever reason, this just happens sometimes. He just didn't have a great year shooting the ball from 3, and he's obviously completely redeemed himself in that capacity this year.
Yeah, terrific game. I don't know, if you took him out of the equation, then who would you make unsung hero?
Mason hit a couple of big threes. I think both of them were in the first half, but
he did hit a couple big
threes. I thought Jason gave a couple good minutes off the bench. He had 2 buckets.
Yeah, I think I'd give it to Mason, because he went on the floor for a loose ball 1 point, kept a possession alive, and knocked down those threes. Kind of when we kind of got off to a slow start there, and that kind of got us going a little bit too. So yeah, I'd probably give it to Mason.
I give Kalk credit too. I thought his energy level was visibly a lot better than some other games where it seems like he looks tired early. I thought that he was really into the game from an intensity level early, and it wasn't easy for him. I mean, first of all, there was a 6-minute stretch in the first half where there wasn't a.
I was going to ask you about that. You ever seen that? I've never seen that long of a stretch.
Long before. I've seen about 4 or 5.
And not only that long, but 2 teams that were going up and down the floor.
And my point with all of that is for Kalk in that stretch too. He wasn't playing his traditional deep drop coverage and pick and roll. I mean, he had a completely different coverage and pick and roll, trying to guard Ben Gold, who's a little bit more of a pick and pop type of big, and who can do some things off the dribble a little bit. So he had to kind of guard on the perimeter some, and I give him a lot of credit. He really played hard, and I thought he defended about as well as he possibly could in a situation where he's really not that comfortable defending.
He really got tired in that stretch, man. He was very able to get up and down the floor, but Shaka said after the game, he goes, in that 6 minutes, both teams were just dog tired. I mean, he goes, they started going on a run, and I had to call timeout. I mean, I knew we were, a timeout was sitting there waiting for us if the ball ever went out of bounds. But he goes, I couldn't wait any longer. And that gave the Jays actually a little break, because then they took Kalk out. Then there was the the under 8 happened like with 6 something left. So then Kalk got a nice break in there, you know.
Yeah. It's interesting with Marquette. I do feel for them because we've been through the same exact thing. And my understanding is that oblique injuries are not easy to come back from.
Such a strange way it happened.
So, for Tyler Kolek, obviously, I mean, this is, maybe the top point guard in the country. If they were to lose him for the rest of the season, now they're saying right now he's just out the regular season and they're going to kind of reevaluate before Big East tournament. But, gosh, that would be a massive, massive blow to not be able to play with him. And we almost got oddly, I don't want to say lucky is not the right term, obviously, because nobody wanted COVID to happen. But, we were in a very similar scenario with Marcus Zagorowski, where no one really knew what was going to happen, if he was going to come back or not before COVID kind of canceled everything. So hopefully, I want to see a healthy Marquette in the NCAA tournament. I know, most fans of the game would probably want to watch Tyler Kolek play in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I was on with Sharp and Hanley in the morning today, and Nick says something about, oh, man, I feel so bad. And I go, you know what? We've had that happen. We played 6 guys against Kansas in a first-round game. We had a guy playing that probably was probably a low major player or a low mid-major player out there for a lot of the game. I mean, that's what we had to do because we had nobody else. So
who are you referencing?
Who was the backup center that year?
Keyshawn?
Yeah, Keyshawn Fizel.
Keyshawn Fizel.
Yeah. And I don't want to say he was a low mid-major. He was more of a mid, but I mean, he wasn't.
He came from a mid-major.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of trying to say.
I thought Keyshawn gave really good minutes that year.
No, he did.
Off the bench.
He did, but I mean, he wasn't Kalkbrenner. I mean,
Right.
I mean, so.
Oh, that does happen.
Marquette's deep though. Marquette's pretty deep.
They do. They are deep. They've got some guys. It's a harsh reality. Yeah, injuries are a part of it. And that the interesting part about that team too, that game that you just mentioned, against Kansas, is we get the ball down 1 with about 45 seconds left in that game, and Trey ends up turning the ball over, and they go the other way for a dunk, and that was kind of all she wrote. And then that team ends up winning the national title. But it's John and I were also laughing too on the broadcast on Saturday. About 5, 6, 7 years ago. I want to say it was the 2018-2019 season. We had about 6 or 7 guys suit up at Villanova. And that team was like a 13, 14-point underdog and had a million injuries. And we had a really good look to win the game at the buzzer from Caleb Joseph, if you remember that. And the game goes into overtime. We lose in overtime. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like that Marquette
team. Think of Mo going down.
Yeah, that Marquette team, the one that we saw on Saturday. So let's say hypothetically, Kolek, worst case scenario. Osto's obviously back; he was just sick. That team could still do some damage.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Depending on who they're playing.
I think talking to some of the coaches, they were saying that in a way it would have been better if he played versus Gold because we had to totally switch, and then they just played 5 out. Right. That pulled Kalk way out, and then some of those drives of Joplin,
they got a lot
and
of
Jones,
straight line drives, especially in the first
Kalk
half.
was way out, where he'd have been underneath the basket.
Yep.
Was with Iguodaro, because he's not as much of a threat from the outside. So,
right.
The way it worked out. Now, I think, and I've said this a couple times, we're pretty lucky that Gold couldn't hit the broad side of the barn Saturday, because usually he's a really dangerous shooter.
Yeah.
And he missed a lot of wide open looks.
1 for 7 or something like that from 3. Yeah, we did get a little bit lucky in that regard. So it's I'm happy that these guys get a week off, to obviously prepare for a team that's starting to look pretty darn good right now in Villanova. I would hope that they win this week against Seton Hall, and I would assume if they won, that would help their case a lot. And they wouldn't maybe feel near as desperate against us on Saturday.
Yeah.
So.
What a huge night of basketball Wednesday you have on FS1. You've got Seton Hall, Villanova. The first game, I think Villanova at Seton Hall. And then the next game is obviously UConn at Marquette. So huge implications all up and down the bracket. Just so everyone knows, if UConn beats Marquette and we beat Villanova, we are the 2 seed.
We end up as the 2.
And that, I think this year is a big advantage.
Yeah, because the 6 is more than likely going to be St. John's.
Yeah, because they play Georgetown and DePaul to finish out the season.
And, if you look at all those teams jumbled in the middle, I mean, you can ask anybody. I think St. John's is the team that you probably want to play the least of all those teams in the middle, I would argue.
And I think if you're
maybe Villanova would be the
right,
other.
and Villanova will probably be the 7 if things work out the way we think they will. And I still though think I still think Georgetown has some pieces there that could spring it up. DePaul's not going to, but Georgetown, I kind of think there's a small chance. I'm not saying it's a big chance, but they do have some pieces. Ed has experience in the Big East tournament, obviously. Team goes in, like Villanova. Let's say they lose to us Saturday. Oh, they're disappointed. They go in, all right, we're playing Georgetown. Take it for granted. I mean, a lot of stuff can happen. You just don't know. So that's why I think it's so important.
Well, where is Villanova currently?
Villanova I think, currently does have.
Villanova's 10-8, so
does have the 6th seed right now. But if you look at it, isn't St. John's?
No, Villanova's currently the 5 seed, Tim. So they're 10-8. Providence, St. John's, and Xavier are all 9-9, right behind them. Seton Hall's 11-7.
That's right. So they could.
If they beat Seton Hall Wednesday, they'll both be tied at 11-8. I'm not sure who has a tiebreaker there. But that would assuredly put Villanova.
But they would be 4-5 then. Seton Hall and Villanova,
right?
That
would almost assuredly put Villanova in the 4-5 game if they win Saturday or if they win Wednesday.
Depending on the tie-breaking scenarios.
Depending on what happens with some of these others.
But I think the way I looked at it, St. John's has a great chance to catch that team.
Well, yeah, if they end up with Georgetown and DePaul, then they're obviously.
No. They have a great chance to get to the 6 because they're the only one left then. Because Seton Hall, Villanova will be 4-5. And Seton Hall would have the.
No, I don't know because St. John's is going to finish 11-9.
Right.
And so if Villanova goes 1-1 this week, let's say hypothetically they beat Seton Hall Wednesday and then we can go in and we beat them Saturday, then they're also going to be 11-9. So then I don't know where the tiebreakers kind of fall from there, but anyways.
No, there's a lot of scenarios that could happen here.
Oh yeah.
Let's go to Big East.
I thought Seton Hall.
All right, Seton Hall, Villanova. Yeah, well, Providence is still in the mix, but Providence has UConn.
Yeah.
Coming into Providence now, who knows? But
is that Saturday or Sunday?
The Saturday. Okay. Saturday.
Gosh,
so you got a 3. Right now, you have a 3-way tie for 6th. So with Butler, Butler's 2 games behind the loss column, so they look like they may. Xavier and Butler play Wednesday night too. It's kind of a rivalry. They're close together. So big game in the standings there. If Butler would win that one, then there's a chance that Butler could sneak ahead of Xavier for the 8-9 spot. But those 2 teams play each other anyway, so that's really not going to be a factor. But they would knock Xavier out of any chance of getting to the 6th. So then you would basically have St. John's and Providence. But you'd have to throw Villanova in if Villanova lost 2. They'd be back in that mix somehow too. Yeah. St. John's could actually climb all the way to the 5. Villanova lose 2.
Yeah.
So a lot to play for yet.
This Seton Hall team was interesting. I thought and just being right there up close, doing the game with John, I thought for a team that is fighting for their lives to get in the NCAA tournament right now, I thought they looked really poor on Wednesday. I thought they had no energy. I thought they had no pop. I thought they were you could argue they just got down early and it just kind of snowballed for them. But they just didn't look like a team that was fighting for their NCAA tourney lives to me. And then I watched a good bit yesterday at UConn. Now, obviously UConn is UConn. I get that, but then another just really flat performance after, they started okay for about 8 minutes, but gosh, I just, that team right now, all of a sudden, I'm like.
To me, though, if you look at the last, Creighton and UConn, 2 high power offensive teams, Seton Hall's not built like that. Secondly, to stop Seton Hall, you just run Dawes off three-point line. That's all you do. And he get like against us, he got frustrated. Yeah. All of a sudden, he started throwing up two-pointers that are not his game. And then we've always done a good job with Richmond. Like, you just bait him into that 18-footer that he's so-so with. And then you kind of just let Dre Davis do what he wants to do. If you take those other two guys out, most teams have an advantage inside against them. So there's a lot that goes wrong there in a hurry.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've got to almost play a perfect game to hang with those teams.
Yeah. It's a
which
weird
makes
team.
you wonder what happened when they beat UConn and Marquette.
I would have never imagined that they would have had the Big East record that they've had, because they had a really poor non-conference.
Yeah.
And
well, they got such a great start beating UConn and Marquette right off the get-go. That really helped them out. They kind of took business against the middles, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, they had St. John's down big at the UBS. They had them down in the first half. I think it was double digits. That game they played at UBS.
They were down to St. John's. Yes, St. John's was beating them by 20.
I'm sorry. St. John's had them down.
Yep.
I mean, that could. Yeah, they could be way out of the pay. They could be playing Wednesday easily. So, yeah. Worst call. Gosh. Okay, Clockerty, Breeding. Who's the other official? Do you know? We've had him like 3 games now. That dude is bad.
The only one I know is the Breeding guy. I'm terrible with
that dude is bad. He's been bad. I rewatched the game last night. The Ashworth call that I thought should have been a charge. He was a hair late. He was a hair late. He kind of turned his body. Yeah.
If he would have just taken it straight.
It looked worse in real time when you slowed down. He was there.
There's one that I specifically remember I thought was really poor doing the broadcast, and I can't remember it for the life of me what the exact scenario was.
But I was down. I was right on your side, but down to the right further, about 6 rows up. There was a play in the first half when we were going that way. Baylor, and the crowd was kind of getting jiggy because this crew, then again, after people had basically called the game the way it should be called the last 3 or 4 games, this call let it be football again. Baylor came out, and right in front, the guy grabs his arm, grabbed his arm. The ball gets loose, and he had to kind of gather it with his right hand, and the official is right there. I'm like, how do you not call that?
Yeah, I don't know.
And who got Baylor was another one. Got clobbered under the basket. They weren't going to blow the whistle. And finally, he went down, and they're like, oh, well, we better call foul here. And then later, like 5 minutes later, Ashworth brushes somebody and gets a foul. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, frustrating. Well, that breakdown of the game was presented by West Pacific Dental Group, our title sponsors here at Bluejay Banter. Dr. Robert Hogan and his wonderful staff at West Pacific Dental Group are committed to providing you and your loved ones with exceptional care and compassionate and friendly atmosphere. Located in Omaha, West Pacific Dental Group is known to be one of the best dental care offices in the area. So give them a call today, 402-697-0765. They're my dentist. They will take care of you and your dental needs. That's West Pacific Dental Group. All right, we're going to move on to around the campus here. Let's check in first of all. By the way, first of all, before we miss this, the Jays number 10 now in the country. Top 10 team.
Feels good.
It was a long journey, I know, and we never thought we were going to get there, but we're right back to kind of where we started from.
That's exactly right.
Some spring sports. So softball had a great weekend, went 3-1. We told you they're going down to Edwardville, Illinois to play a bunch of teams. That the only loss they had was to the host school, SIUE. And they now play Kansas tomorrow at Kansas. And then they start Big East play. They go out to St. John's for 3. So they're right into the Big East season. Baseball, we told you, was undefeated. They won their first game against Air Force this weekend, went to 6-0, and then played a Louisiana Tech team that's traditionally very good and is pretty good again this year, and we got smoked 12-zip. But to their credit, bounced back, had a big game against Army, won easily, so now they're 7-1. And now, guess what? Tomorrow night, baseball here in Omaha.
I think it's supposed to be a little bit nicer tomorrow.
UMass Lowell. Well, you know what I noticed today? We're starting with our typical spring weather where it's just crappy all day long, and it gets nice about 4:30, 5 o'clock.
I looked earlier because I was looking at if I could go on a run at all this week, and it's not supposed to be as windy tomorrow.
Yeah.
Luckily.
So, anyway, 6 o'clock both Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to play UMass Lowell. So, a nice program. And then this weekend, they're home again. Friday, Saturday, Sunday against a really good program traditionally, and they're good again this year. That's Portland. Very good team, very good at baseball traditionally. You know, their baseball, for people that don't know it, out in Oregon is very, very big. And that's why both at like the American Legion level, high school level, and that's why there's so many good teams out there. Typically, Oregon State, Oregon are always really battling to get in the College World Series. Yeah. That's why it's so good out there, and teams like Portland are also good. So this is no slouch coming in here this weekend. So if the weather's nice, get out Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, get out and watch the Jays. Sunday's supposed to be gorgeous. So if you have a chance, get out and see the Jays while they're here, because then they're going to head back on the road again. But 7-1, not too shabby to get started. And then, of course, the women's team we told you about, 24-4.
Yeah, Flan has done an unbelievable job the past number of years, kind of getting that program to where they're really humming now. You got to give him a lot of credit, because he's navigated the Big East waters, the transition to the Big East. It felt like those first few years, you know, they were average, they were doing okay, but it really feels like these past number of years he's kind of taken that program to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, you got 24-4, and 2 of those were to UConn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
But yeah, and the great thing is, even though he had a veteran team, most of the players are coming back for that COVID year. So the future's bright, man.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
anyway, Big East tournament starts. They'll start March 9th in the quarters. So at the Mohegan Sun in UConn. So huge advantage obviously for UConn, but isn't everywhere a huge advantage for UConn, except when they play South Carolina or one of the top teams.
That is true.
And there's so much, so many eyeballs on women's basketball right now. It's unbelievable.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's.
I mean, how many national games has there been on? Obviously, Caitlin Clark, but my goodness.
No, it's really cool. It is. It's awesome to see. I mean, I think the NIL has certainly, based on what I've seen and what I've read, it certainly seems like the NIL has had a very strong impact on the women's game. And retaining players, and I mean, gosh, a lot of them are probably getting paid much better than they would even get paid as a rookie in the WNBA.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. And may I just say, as an old guy to you young kids, this would not be even closely attainable had there been a three-point line. Because Pete Maravich, when there was no point line, would throw in 30-footers constantly. Okay? He was one of the greatest college basketball players I ever saw. The thing was, he played at LSU. They were never on TV, so you saw highlights of him and clips once in a while. And back then, there was not nonstop college hoops on every night. There was a game or two on Saturday in your region, and maybe a national game, and it was usually UCLA, and that was it. So,
I will say for those that just kind of see her name all over the place and know that she's basically famous. Caitlin Clark, if you have not watched her, she is a seriously good player. I mean, we're talking as the skill level that she has is really, really high level. I mean, she can pull up from basically anywhere past half court. She's got unbelievable vision, handles the ball. I mean, she's a really, really high level basketball player.
The other player I've seen close was actually started up close and personal here when she was here was Paige Beckers from UConn.
Also a really good player. Yeah.
Seriously, she had a better jump shot, like from a pure form perspective, than most of the Creighton players, men's players. I mean, her jump shot is just, and she has the Ashworth rotation. It's just perfect every time. She's an amazing player. So at any rate,
it'll be interesting to see what seed Flan and them end up getting in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it will be. I mean, by rankings and so forth. I don't know what the RPI says for them, but or net says for them, but they should be around, I would think 5-6, somewhere in there. So that 6 seed, they could be a dangerous 6 seed actually.
Maybe, I mean, I would think that 24-4 they'd be higher than that, but maybe it's Big East. Not
but
as strong.
they don't get a lot of power because the only power games are going to be UConn.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. But anyway, that's a look at all the other sports going on. And by the way, the women are 21 right now. I just want to mention that. So let's talk about the Jays next Saturday. It's 1:30 on Big Fox. So I think that first game is like St. John's and Georgetown, which will be not a good game. And then, just a huge game. A lot on the line. Can capture third place, or second place, excuse me. We could still take second if Marquette would lose 2.
Yep.
Which that's a possibility as well, right? So that's still out there, but we'd rather take care of business. And don't you kind of feel like, even though it was eons ago, we went for about a month there where we went, man, wish we could have had that Nova game over again.
Yeah.
You know, I got to believe that's in a player's mind and so forth.
Yeah, well, especially considering, they had, like a 12, 13-point lead in the second half that they obviously blew.
Yeah.
It's not a secret at this point. Eric Dixon tends to play very, very well against us. And he's a heck of a player. He really has turned himself into a fantastic player. But this Villanova team is they're trending in the right direction. I would imagine it'll be a very good crowd there Saturday.
It's at Wells Fargo.
It's at Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
Saturday games at Wells Fargo, they tend to get really good crowds. So.
And it would be senior. I think they already celebrate like senior day when they're on campus at the pavilion, though.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, I think that's how they do it. But we've had great luck there. Obviously, we've played a lot of games there over the years.
Yeah, didn't win last
Villanova,
year,
and we played a lot of we played some NCAA games there, so we've been there before. But let's. It's going to be fun to watch those games Wednesday night. It's a great week. I'm just like, oh my God, I can breathe this week. I don't have to. It's not game after game after game.
Well, this is. Wait. You don't think it's game after game this week?
No, not for Creighton. They got a whole week off, so it's not like, geez, we like Monday, then all of a sudden, boom, we got a game Wednesday. Boom, they got a game Saturday. Boom, and it just keeps going.
Yeah, it'll be nice to watch. I personally think this is. I think these 2 weeks leading up to the NCAA tournament are almost better than the NCAA tournament. I love watching all these conference tournament games, these small conferences on ESPN Plus, and watching some of these schools get a chance to punch their ticket. But it's just a blast of a time of the year, in my opinion.
I was off air. I was telling Ross, if you watch any of the mock selection show, Rocco Miller was here, and he's every small school in the country knows Rocco. And I was just too bad. We talked briefly about Ross with him, but I should have mentioned to him that there's probably only one guy that watches as much small college basketball as you, and that's Ross. So those two would have hit it off great.
But even I was telling you, there's so many teams in Division I, it's impossible to keep tabs on all of them. Like there are a couple conferences where I just don't feel that prepared. ASUN starting tonight would be one. Sun Belt, I have not watched much Sun Belt also.
Morocco said that's probably, I think Little Rock was in our play-in game, and he goes, that conference is bad this year.
Little Rock is in...
Or am I in the wrong conference?
Little Rock, I believe, is in the OVC, Ohio Valley, with Moorhead and UT Martin.
Oh, okay.
Sunbelt would be...
They used to be in Sunbelt, though, didn't they?
Will be...
Didn't they used to be in Sunbelt?
They might have been.
Yeah.
Sunbelt will be James Madison, and then who
no, that wasn't finished? Obviously, he wasn't talking about Sunbelt then. James Madison. No, James Madison's in the other conference. Hold on.
No, I think James Madison's in Sunbelt,
Sunbelt?
aren't they?
I don't think so.
There's been a lot of movement in these smaller conferences.
Yeah. Oh, my God. And it's only getting worse.
Yeah.
Only getting worse. You are right. App State and James Madison. Yeah.
App State was the other. Yeah.
We looked very, very long and hard at James Madison as they were our first 4 out. I mean, there was votes for them to get in. I actually think, in a way, App State because they've beaten James Madison twice.
That guy's done a heck of a job at App State.
I actually think App State's resume is just a hair stronger because they beat James Madison twice, plus they beat Auburn. But the only problem is they got some bad losses on their resume. So
they're not going to get in that large. I mean, no chance.
You don't. Well, James Madison's 28-3. There's only been we talked about the other. There has only been, I think, one team that got left out with like a 29. With 29 wins and 4 losses, there's only been like one team.
Unfortunately, that win at Michigan State isn't holding up near as
well. You're right. You're right. I just don't think.
Gosh, what a down league the Big Ten has been this year. Really disappointing league, in my personal opinion. I mean, obviously Purdue and Illinois, who play tomorrow night, have both been good. Nebraska's been good, I would say. But Nebraska's probably going to finish 4th in that league, and with all the struggles they've had on the road, and they've still kind of been always on that bubble talk for most of the year. It's just been a disappointing. I'm
trying to think which league. There was one league he said is really bad. I don't forget which one it was, but at any rate. But yes, so Saturday 1:30, Big Fox. We want to thank Infusion Brewery as our sponsor. We talked to you a lot about the Vanilla Bean, but they've got a couple beers in there right now called the Trip. It's a hazy IPA, very cool can. So you got to go check that out at Infusion. And then also a beer that I've had, the El Squacho, the Mexican lager. Got just a hint of like jalapeno.
And really good.
It's really, really good. So check out those beers. 2 great locations in Southwest Omaha and the original at 61st and Maple. Check them out, Infusion Brewery. And of course, they're the home of Let It Fly beer. Our guests that were here for the mock selection loved the Let It Fly. They were drinking Let It Flies all over the place. So thanks for that. And the great Let It Fly and the great, obviously, can, just so sharp. All right. That's the show for this week. We probably won't see you for a few weeks now because we've got tournament action going on. We're going to be, just to let you know, full-blown coverage at the Big East tournament. I will be there. Mac, our producer, will be there. Members of the Let It Fly crew will be there. We're going to do all kinds of stuff. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do that because we're going to have tons of product on there. We're going to we got some features planned where we're going to go talk to some fans. So you'll want to be having that up so you can see all the people. You're probably like, hey, I know that person. And a lot of things around New York and just a lot of fun things we're going to do. We're all going to have interviews, by the way, like we do at the home games where we have a player and a coach. We're going to go down to the locker room, interview a player and a coach every game. The post games will not be live, so to speak, but they will be up within an hour after the game, after we get done interviewing and splicing together and doing a show there in New York. So we're going to have great coverage. Follow us on Twitter. We will blast it all out, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow us all on all those platforms, and we will blast out everything on there, and you will be up to date with everything going on at the Big East tournament. We'll tell you if Tyler Kolek worked out, if he's ready to go or not in those games in the Big East. Because it could be Creighton Marquette, round 3, semifinals.
Certainly looking that way.
Yep.
Knock on wood.
So that would be interesting. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you Saturday after the Villanova game.